Access to finance continues to be a significant challenge for African businesses, hindering growth and innovation. While many businesses struggle to secure the necessary capital, what often goes unspoken is the importance of how you structure your business before you even approach potential investors. The right structure can not only make your company more attractive to investors, but can also unlock various types of funding options, from equity to debt and everything in between. Joining us to discuss this important topic is Mayowa Adeosun, Chief Financial Officer of Sycamore.
Now, so can you give me like a rundown of how the fundraising journey for Sycamore has been? Everything, all the type of funding you guys have had, and what it looks like.
Okay.
You guys have raised up to $1.5 million so far, or more? Please.
Well, it's roughly around that.
Okay.
Yes, it's roughly around that. So it's very interesting starts for us at Sycamore. We first raised amongst friends, family, and well-wishers, and that was an interesting thing because at the time it was myself, my co-founder Babatunde Akinosis, and Onye Okunji. We were actually classmates in Lagos Business School, and some of our first investors were also our classmates. So they had seen what we were trying to do, and we had convinced them that we were the right people to do it at the time. So with personal funds and with some classmates who also wanted to participate, we were able to raise nothing too grand, but it was just a seed investment to get the ball rolling, and that's how we started.
Awesome, that's interesting. Now that was the first one.
That was the very first
one. Now, that's like, it's pretty much common. We say the very first round for most startups is family and friends.
Family and friends, and fools if you're...
fools, right? That's quite interesting. So how do you structure your company for that? I'm not sure there's much due diligence that happens. That's my guy, Alpha.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, but is there anything that we should know
So,
at that phase?
I mean, that's a very fantastic question. I think one of the most important things that you can do as someone who wants to start a company, and you're not going to be able to do the huge due diligence that's maybe the huge investor would expect. What you should be focused on is, first of all, developing yourself. That way you are the brand at that point in that time. So people have to look at you and see you as someone who has taken yourself seriously. You've invested in yourself, in your time, in your education, in your profession, and that you've also that you're committed to whatever it is that you're trying to do. So once you've positioned yourself in that kind of a way, people can now take you more seriously, and they believe that if they give you money, that you're actually going to do what you've said you're going to do.
So at this phase, it's not about the books,
it's not about the books, it's about you as the founder or the co-founder or as the business driver. You have to be the person for the job.
Interesting. Now, okay, talk to me about the next phase. You've won a grant.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, and how did you structure for that?
Yeah, excellent. So we applied for several grants, and we faced a lot of rejections, a lot of disappointments. But of course, we have been successful with some later on. But one of the learnings we took away from that is, they talk about the cost of capital, right? The cost of capital, we typically think of it like in terms of debt, or if you take a loan, it's going to cost you X amount. But with grants, it still has a cost, right? Even though grant is free money, or people believe it to be free money, it still has a cost. And the cost might be, they want you to be specific around certain outputs that your business has to achieve. So it changes, or it might shift the direction or the strategy of your company if you're not careful, because you need to satisfy, there are some, strings attached with the money. So you need to be very careful. Now, grants are fantastic, and they allow you, if you're very strategic, they allow you to go from 0 to 1 in terms of proving the concepts that you wanted to do. And they don't have the financial implications, but they have an output in terms of the direction. They have that kind of implication. So you just have to make sure it fits for what you're trying to achieve, and that you are properly aligned with the grants.
Okay, so is there anything that needs to happen in terms of your accounting structure and things like that?
Yes.
Anything special?
Well, so grants, they also want to be sure that you are, depending on the level of business that you're at. I mean, some grants focus on startups that are very, very new, maybe seed level or even pre-seed level. And if you're a pre-seed or seed level business, then the grants, they're going to know that you're not going to have all these well elaborate, documents and recordings and files, but they just want to see that you're making the right steps, right? So you need to make sure that you have like a business account, make sure that you've separated your personal expenses from your business expenses, and that you're beginning to put things in order. And they will also help you. They will come in and help you to organize some of your records. So that's the value that they also bring to the table, that they can also help you to structure your business in a way that can enable you to even get more money down the road.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, we now leave the early guys to the serious guys, debt and equity.
Yeah.
And I guess, how do you now, at this phase, the requirements are a bit different, I'm
Very
sure.
different, very different.
Can you tell us what that looked like, and how did you now, how have you been able to, okay, let's start what that looks like first.
Okay.
Let me not.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, fantastic question, and I think this is very useful for anyone who is interested in going into business. So, the way that equity and debt are structured are quite different. So you have equity. These are people who want to give equity. They want to see that you have a dream, you have a vision, something that is powerful, purposeful, and can be very futuristic. And they're willing to take a lot of risks with you, right? Especially if it's calculated risks. They understand that in business, you take risk, and that's why they're investing. But they want to believe that you understand the risk better than anybody else, and that you are a good bet to stake their investment on. So they are more risk, open. They're more they have a higher tolerance for risk.
Yeah.
Now, debt, on the other hand, they don't have any tolerance for risk, right? They want to make sure that you have cash flow. Their priority is to be sure that the business is generating cash flow consistently. And there's a thing called DSCR, which is the debt service coverage ratio. It's jargon for banking and for debt. Basically what it means is that, does your business generate enough cash flow to be able to service the debts that they are giving you? So can you pay the interest? How many times can your cash flow pay the interest? And that's a metric that they use to determine whether they'll give you. They don't want to know about your vision. They don't want to know about the impacts that you're making. These are nice to know, but what they really care about is the cash flow. So I have a way of thinking about the three of them, which is the grant, equity, and debt. The grant is mostly for when you're trying to prove your concept. The equity is for when you're trying to build the concept that you've proven. So if you want to build, you need equity. You can take on the risk, and the equity will allow you to take that risk. And the debt is when you want to scale the business, right? If you want to scale, then you take debt. But your concept must be proven, and you must have built the infrastructure you need to scale by that point. So debt is something that you use to scale. It's not something you use to take risks and to prove your concepts.
Or to say, let's test to see.
No. You don't test with debts. And the banks will not allow you to test with debts as well. That's another thing. They're not set up that way. So you need to understand the dynamics of the fund that you're dealing with, and that will help you to attract more investment down the road.
This is interesting. Now, what I find interesting is you've been able to structure the company to be able to get funds from any of the sources, and they have distinctly different requirements. So was that something you guys thought of from day one and say, hey, we want to set up everything to be able to be flexible, or was it something that came and as you guys grew, you guys were more mature? And what was that?
Yeah, so for Sycamore, we're uniquely positioned because of the nature of the business that we run. The nature of the business that we run is a credit business. So when we take on debts, our debts would be the debt that we are, taking from necessarily like individuals, HNIs and institutions. And the debt is used to, for our operations, right? So we take on debt and we give out debt. So it's the cost of our funds, right? The source of funds is debt, and the use of funds is our loans. So for our case, we knew debt was going to be a very big part of our funding, right? But when we wanted to scale, when we wanted to hire talent, when we wanted to ramp up operations, we now knew that we needed equity, right? So equity was used for bringing on talent, was used for infrastructure, for research and development, and for those type of purposes, then we know we need equity. But from the beginning, we already knew that debt was going to be a large part of the business, and so knowing that we were able to structure our business in a way that we could receive it and we knew exactly what to do with it as soon as we had it.
That's quite interesting. Now, I would like, so all of these things, do you have the benefit of hindsight on some of them, or were you guys already futuristic and like, well, I can see this already?
I wish we could say that we saw everything from the beginning, but that would not be the honest truth. I think you, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, you can make educated guesses on what the future will be. But you have to remain dynamic, you have to remain flexible, and you have to remain willing to learn as you go along. So we did a lot of learnings. I mean, what I'm telling you now is not something I could have known in six years ago. It's been learnt as we've grown and as we've developed. So yes, it's definitely with a bit of hindsight as well.
Okay, so how have you been able to balance this as a business? Like balance the three, so you have expectations from investors who want to see you guys scale massively. You have expectations from the guys, the debt financiers, who want to see you guys be disciplined. You have donors who want to see impact, as it were.
Exactly.
So how do you balance expectations with this?
Fantastic question. I think you have to realize, again, that when you're putting together like presentations, you're putting together a dashboard, you need to know the audience, right? It's not one dashboard for all three. You need to have a dashboard that speaks to your equity investor. They want to see growth. They want to see, customer acquisition. They want to see all these things that speak to the equity and the upside of the business. The debt side, they want to see cash flow. They want to see how are you managing your expenses. Are you investing too heavily into long-term projects? So they want to see that the money is going out and coming in within a short cycle. And then your grants financiers, they want to see impact, right? They want to see how many people's lives have you impacted. What's the ratio of men to women in your organization or in your customer base. So you need to know who your audience are and cater your dashboard to speak to them specifically. While all these things can be true at the same time, you just need to know who needs what information and when.
So now with the global capital landscape, what it is right now, a lot of startups, a lot of African startups are no longer raising as much as they used to. And I think this is a higher interest rates environment. So far, so good. The era of ZEP as I don't know if it's going to come back, but how are you thinking about the future fundraisers you guys will be making, and how are you going to go about it?
Yeah, excellent. So I think the environment that we're in is very peculiar. It's very unique, but I think it sharpens a lot of the best entrepreneurs and businesses because it allows one to have to navigate through a lot of these challenges. And if you are able to make it through, then you really do have a fantastic business that can weather pretty much anything. And I think in this environment, term sheets are not as important as trust, right? In terms of from an investor standpoint, you can have an ironclad term sheet, but really what they're looking for and what's the currency in this part of the world is trust. So you have to build that trust over time. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect, doesn't mean you have to get everything right, but your investors and the capital that wants to invest in you needs to know that you're going to do everything possible in your power to get it done. Whether it's network, whether it's go out to speak to your customer, whatever it is that is necessary, that you're going to do it, and that you're the person, or that you're the team to do it. So that's how you can navigate in this climate, because interest rates are not coming down, and equity is becoming a lot more scarce, right? It's gone are the days of, equity was just awash, everyone was just raising. And I think it's in a way it's actually good, because funding is not necessarily a trophy. It's a tool, right? Being able to raise millions of dollars, it shouldn't necessarily in itself just be a reward. It's a tool that you need to use, that you need to capitalize in your business. And if you get the wrong type of funding in your business, it can actually be very detrimental to the success. So determining what type of funding you're getting, how you use it, is more important than just saying that you're able to raise.
That's cool. So if you're talking to someone in corporate finance or CFO out there, and you want to tell them, hey, if you're doing any of these things, these are the mistakes you should avoid. These are the most important metric you should pay attention to. What would those be?
Well, I would advise any professional, any CFO or someone within the corporate finance field to go back to remembering, how what they say is cash is king, right? And cash in any business, whether you're in the credit lending business, or you're in the manufacturing business, or you're in the FMCG, whatever business that you're in, cash remains one of the most important aspects of a business, because you can have a fantastic product, you can be making millions in terms of revenue, but if you're not careful about your cash and the cash cycle, you can run into very big problems very quickly, and that's something that you must continuously put your focus on, and make sure that you're planning in advance, and then also you're preparing your company for future investment, right? So the investors want to see what the future looks like, and so your books and your records are already accounting for that. Maybe you're doing a scenario analysis, giving the best case, the moderate case, the worst case, and this also speaks to how your cash can be managed in these cases as well.
Awesome. So do you have any final words, and anything you want to leave the product audience with?
Final words. I think this again is a great opportunity in this environment, even though we have a lot of challenges. Interest rates is high, equity is scarce, but I think this is what will allow a lot of the new ideas to come to the forefront. These are the ideas that are really going to make an impact, ideas that are really going to be scalable, because for you to navigate through all of these challenges and obstacles, you really do have to have something unique and something profound. And I just look forward to seeing what will come out of this environment in the next few years, especially with the introduction of like AI and technologies is really bringing out some brilliant ideas. And with Nigerians in general, brilliant, innovative, hardworking people, and I'm so excited to see what we will do.
Awesome. Speaking of ideas, I just realized something. Are there certain type of businesses they should be considering certain types of funding? Maybe we could say Sycamore was lucky because they're in the credit lending space, so they're able to blend everything.
Yeah.
Or are there certain type of businesses that should not even consider debt at all, or equity, or grants?
I think mostly every business will have a point in time where they have one of the three, grants, equity, or debt. But if you're very lucky, you will be able to tap into grants early, right? Getting grants early is a lifesaver. Even though, yes, the people that are given the grants are focused on the impact, but if the impact aligns with what you actually want to do as well, and you have a plan to deliver on that impact, then fantastic. Grants is what you should be looking for as an early, startup or business. Once you've been able to go past that early stage and you really want to scale, you've proven the concept, then equity. But for a business outside of the lending space or outside of the financial industry, debts can be a bit risky, especially in this part of the world where it might be a bit pricey. But I will also say, lastly, the equity aspects now. One of the challenges is that before the Naira devaluation and the currency fluctuation, people were able to raise in dollar, and because of their operations are in Naira, it wouldn't be too risky to take dollar investments and Naira operations. But now, because of the way dollar is so priced, I would also advise entrepreneurs and businesses to look towards getting local investment in Naira. So that way you don't put as much pressure on your business to return the funds as an equity investment later on down the road.
Okay. So yeah, yes, I think you've made it clear that business should be able to take out the time, like to know when to go for debts, grants, and equity. So are there specific metric you should be looking out for, and to know if, let's say I'm over leveraged in this aspect, and I need to go for a different type of funding or things like that. Are there specific metric that will let you know that, okay, I've gotten past this stage, I need to move to the next stage, or I need to do the other thing?
Okay, excellent. I think for debt and equity, it's quite easy to determine which one will be more beneficial. For equity now, if you are trying to scale very rapidly and you don't necessarily have, you're not necessarily profitable, but you have an idea that is catching fire and you need to put in a lot of capital into the business to bring on more customer, then equity would be the way forward. But if you are already profitable and you're generating cash flow, and you just want to scale your business that way, then debt would be most likely the best way, because you can use that as a leverage to plug into your business, expand your operations, and you already have a business model that is generating cash flow and is profitable. So you can pay back your interest, you can pay back your principal, and what's left is for you as the business owner. So those two are the very clear. Now, grants can come in at any time. At any point in time, you can get a grant. For example, now Sycamore, we just recently got some sort of grant investments recently, and we're already a 6-year-old business. So we can still get grants even as we turn 7, 8, 9, 10. Grants will always be available. But for equity and debts, it really depends on the stage of the business that you're in and what is most suitable for you. I think that's that.